Okay, so Sherlyn asked me to record the session, so it's been recorded. Okay. So dating, again, after death of a spouse can be an awkward experience. As I said, it can bring out feelings of guilt, of betrayal, for the widow because of engaging in another relationship. And also bring out feeling of confusion and concern by friends, family, and those who are close to the deceased, children, in-laws, people like everybody. Remember when someone dies, while the spouse have to deal with that, everybody else is impacted by it as well, and so everybody deals with it differently. So people will come in the conversation with their own pain, their own grief, and try to talk to you from their perspective as a concern for you. So you have to hear that. Sometimes someone is talking and they're concerned, but they're having to deal with, especially with children and in-laws, they have their own issues to deal with. Now, there's no specific time period that you should wait before start dating again. I already shared with you my two friends, the difference in the space. Grieving is a process, and it moves different for different people because we are made differently. So we handle the whole grieving process differently as individuals. So my two friends, their experiences were different. So we have to know that for each of you, your process is different. You don't compare yourself with someone else and say, well, this one is dating, how come I'm not dating yet? Or what taking me so long? Or why this person dating so quickly? We just don't, compare that because we all have different experiences when it comes to how we process grief. Okay, some people get back into a relationship, a lot faster than others, but I need to give you some caution about that as we go in terms of timing for getting back into relationships. Okay. Again, dating a widow and the experience of that, you as a widow and the person you're going to be dating, that's going to be a challenge. The person you're going to be dating, whether they understand. Generally, what we know is that people who a widow dating a widower is a lot. There's a lot more understanding there than a widow dating someone who's never experienced a loss at that level, because the experience is different. And so I say, when it comes to dating a person who was, like, you could think for your own experience, a person who have dated, who is dating with no experience at all in a committed relationship, they have their expectations, but they really also don't know what to expect because it's a new experience for them. Okay, so their dating experience would be different. So imagine you who've been in a committed relationship and you've lost your spouse and you're going to date someone who have had no experience in dating. The expectation will be different. Okay. Secondly, dating a person who has never been in a committed relationship before, as opposed to a person who is dating because they've been divorced. They bring a different experience in the dating process because now they have where they've been divorced. So for some of those, they might be struggling with guilt and with anger and with resentment and failure and all of those feelings. Family members still angry with them. A whole lot of issues there to work through as a divorced person dating again, as opposed to someone who has never been in a committed relationship before. And then when we come to the person that's dating that's a widow, it's a whole total different dynamic. So we have to understand this when it comes to the emotional process, because people show up in different spaces with different emotional baggage from their experience or with their expectation. And let me just make just excuse me. I need to make Sherlyn the host again so she can pay attention to people coming in and out of the group. Okay, So that being said, let's talk about some of the do's and don'ts, okay? Any questions what I've said so far as I'm going to get some more into this? Okay. So some of the do's and don'ts of going forward in terms of dating and what happens. The first thing I want to say to you is do your grief work. This is important, okay? I usually advise people when I'm working with people who have suffered, the loss of a loved one. Grieving is a process, and I usually say to an individual, don't make any major decision for the first year, because anything you'll be doing there would be in an emotional space, okay? And especially depending on the experience of how you became widowed, if you became widowed over your spouse was sick over a long period of time, is it because it was an accident, it was a sudden death? Is it because, it was a suicide, all of those things. So there's a lot of emotions, okay? So usually the grieving process takes between a year to 2 years if you work in the process, okay? And if you're not working the process, you could be 10 years on and still be stuck, okay? And that is problematic, of course, because then you're stuck there. You have people who their spouse have died, and 5, 7, 10 years down the road, the house still the same, the room still the same. They haven't gotten rid of anything, and they still every day, they're still crying. There's still an emptiness. That it means that they're stuck, and they need the professional help of a counselor to help them through the process, okay? So now they have to be an antidepressant, and they have a lot of things to take because their life stuck in the process. You want to experience, for the first year, you're going to experience the birthday, the anniversary, the holiday times, the things you used to do. You have to experience those things alone and allow those emotions, to be felt and experienced. The second year wrong, if you're in the process, you'll find that it's a lot easier to face the birthday again and the anniversary and the thing that comes up and all of the things that made the relationship so significant for you. So doing your grief work is important. Some people could do their grief work without ever having to be part of a group. There are a lot of grief groups around. People could go together and share and be able to get the support they need. But this is an important do. Do your grief work, or else any relationship you enter without having done your grief work would be very problematic, because it means that you haven't grieved the loss and you're taking that into the relationship, and you're going to have a lot of relational problems because a lot of anger and resentment and misunderstanding will be based still on your unresolved grief, as opposed to the person that you engaging with or that you're wanting to date, okay? So do your grief work where you can feel, so let me say this. You are not trying to forget about your spouse, okay? That is not going to happen. What you're working to do is to give your spouse a place in your life where you recognize we've had a meaningful relationship, we've had these children, we've had this history, we've done all this together, and that's a part of your life. You'll always honor, you'll always cherish, always be precious to you. So you're not trying to forget them, you're not trying to replace them once you start dating either. This is a new, different relationship. So you're not looking to replace your spouse, you're looking to start a new relationship. But that experience with your spouse should always remain as something that you cherish, something that you will remember and talk about a lot, in very healthy ways, but not to try to forget. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so that's an important do. Please do your grief work. Okay. if you feel like dating again, take some time to understand why. This is a do, okay? Why are you interested in dating again? And this is an important question because you want to know what is driving my need for engaging in a dating relationship. It's not wrong to date because you're lonely, you want company. That's what drives dating in the first place, right? You want to have companionship and all that. So that's good. But you want to make sure you have done your work, and you're not dating because you think it's going to somehow fill the void or heal the pain of the spouse you have lost. That is never going to happen if that's your dating. Because remember, dating gives you an opportunity to open up your heart to another person, and a chance to experience a unique relationship again with great joys, of falling in love again. You can't do that if you are not haven't done your work, okay? So you're not dating to fill the void. If that is driving you, you need to stop, because that means there's work to be done for healing, so that you're not trying to replace or fill the void of your spouse that has died. Okay, any questions? And Daphne, I think you need to put to go on mute. Okay, any questions? I don't think Daphne's hearing me. If I can, I would, but I can't. Okay. So let's continue then, since there are no questions. Going forward, as we think about dating, working, emotional issues, you would have learned some things from being with your spouse. It depends on the years. It varies in terms, and I could have gone around the room to then ask people how long they've been, widowed, and I'm sure they've heard a lot of different years. But as you're going forward into another relationship, you want to be aware that you're not taking the expectations of certain things that you had in your previous relationship that's supposed to have it in this relationship. So that being said, you need to be clear about what you are looking for, why you want to get involved in this dating experience. So you already recognize you have done your grief work. You're not trying to get a replacement. You honor and cherish the relationship you have. Then why am I interested? Why do I want to become vulnerable again and put myself out there again? You need to be aware of that and do your work. And because as you go to dating, it depends on how long you've been married. If let's say your spouse for 25 years had died, dating 25 years ago, totally different dating now. So there are going to be some different experiences for you to try to to deal with, to manage, and try to work through.
I'm not watching this.
As you try to get through the process of getting involved. Okay, so I already mentioned your relationship with your spouse that has died will never go away. You're not trying to get rid of it. You just need to put it in its perspective of what it has meant to you and how you cherish that. And when you start dating with someone, you're going to start talking about this. So now we come back to the person you're dating. If they have had an experience of loss, the connection will be a lot easier. If you're dating someone who's never experienced that kind of loss, you've got to be patient here, because they wouldn't necessarily get where you're at. Okay, it's going to take some time. So you're going to be aware. Okay, and if you're dating a divorced person as opposed to a person who's never been in a committed relationship before, the experience may be different. Okay, so you got to be aware of that once you get in this relationship. But you will talk about the loss. You will talk about the spouse. You will talk about what life was about initially. You'll talk about the journey of and as you begin to know each other and get to know each other, and that'll be. But there's going to come a time when that will no longer be the conversation. Okay, as you get to know each other, it will be about each other and no longer about the spouse. If you find yourself always when I talk about your spouse, it means that you have unresolved issues. You're not ready to be dating. You're not ready to be in this relationship. Okay, so you'll have to step back because that is not going to be healthy for you or for the person. Okay, so if you're in a dating relationship and you find yourself always just gravitating to talk about your spouse, or you're dating someone who also have lost their spouse, and that's all the conversation, it means that either you're not ready or somebody's not ready. If that's all, because it means you're looking for a replacement, you don't know how to let go, you're going to struggle with a lot of that. Okay. Just know that as you begin to date, because of the relationship you had before, and you're going to experience some nervousness, you might experience some you might feel a little embarrassed, you might feel some shame, you might feel as though you're cheating on your spouse. Okay, that is normal. Okay, especially if you had a really good relationship with your spouse, and that's such a good relationship that now to open up your life to someone else, there's just this feeling inside. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just going to feel that. And that's okay. That means it says something about the relationship you've had. But over time, you will walk past that. But just know, initially, you might feel, just one guy says, it was his wife of many years had died, and then it was like 7 years after her death, he went on his first date, and he says, I walked into the restaurant, and he says, and I'm feeling guilty, and I'm looking around to see if anybody in the restaurant knows me, and and as though he felt as though he was cheating on his wife. But that is a normal thing because the emotional bond was so strong that you will feel that from time to time. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It merely means that the depth of the relationship brings that feeling with it. But over time, as you let go of that and as you open yourself up for the new relationship, that sense of guilt and shame and all of that will eventually begin to subside. Okay. All right. Any questions on that so far? All right. So moving on. Watch for red flags. If you're dating someone, watch for red flags. And this is I do a whole presentation on red flags in relationships and things to look for. But in this dating context, you need to look for red flags. Red flags are things like if the person is always making excuses why they don't want to introduce you to their family or to the kids, or things like that. They keep putting you off. Something always coming up why they can't do that. That's a red flag. It says that or if some family or friend meet you guys hanging out or something, and the person introduces you as a friend while you're dating, they say, oh yeah, this is my friend. It means that, again, that's a red flag. It means they're still uncomfortable with you and where they are, or they're not telling people that they're in a dating relationship, so so what, and that's their issue. That's not you. This is not you, but this is a red flag for you. Okay, it doesn't mean the problem is with you. It means for whatever reason they're struggling with their own emotional issues to make space and be able to talk about you and say this is who you are. So that's a red flag. If they're having trouble identifying you as someone they're dating, someone they're interested in, when people ask about you, that tells you already that this person is not really serious, really. Especially if you're dating a widow or someone who have lost a loved one, and they're having trouble. They need some space in order to deal with things. So you need to let them know. I noticed that when we talk or you keep and not a fight, just put it out there of how you're experiencing the relationship and let them figure it out. Don't own that. Don't make that your issue, but you need to pay attention. If you're being treated that way, that's not a healthy way. You don't want to get into that relationship. where you are not acknowledged, or they seem to be embarrassed of acknowledging you to other people along the way. Okay. Also, you have to you have to work with family members. There are people who are going to give you pushback for dating. Okay, especially if you have kids, adult kids or teenage kids or whatever. Other in-laws and other people who really loved your spouse and think spouse is the best thing on earth. But again, I want to say this to you: if you're ready to date and you're hearing all those noises from other people, you have to understand is where they are. You have to just make sure with you feel that you're ready to do this. You're ready to open that space in your life to invite someone in. You're okay with that, all right? But what we do here a lot of is family members saying, "Oh, how can you do this now? And he only died so and so ago. What about this and what about that? What about the children and the care?" And it's really their issues that they have to deal with, that they haven't dealt with, or they're working through, and they're projecting that on you. If you feel ready and you want to do this, you just got to watch for the people who are going to come along and be all the noise you're going to hear, that it's their own issues. Okay. So that's another side of it you'll have to deal with as well. So just I do is to make sure that I am getting into this because I know I am ready for this. So when all the people begin to make the noise for whatever their reasons, you are able to do it and not feel the guilt and keep reacting to other people's own unresolved issues and making them your own. Okay, they're not yours to take responsibility for. You have to work with where you're at. Okay, so that red flag is important. The family is going to, and then the friends and the people are going to say things to you is important. But as you venture into dating again, you want to have this is a do. You want to have one or two people who you can just really talk to, that close friends, and not friends that overlooks your bad choices. They can be able to tell you, because you want to, you sometimes you can't see this for yourself, where your real motive for dating is because you're feeling lonely, you're missing your spouse, and that's why you're doing this, right? If you have some friends, who close by, who are there for you, who support you, and who could say, wait a minute, every time you talk, you're dating this person, but you keep talking about when your husband used to do this and when you used to do that, and what's really going on here. So you're going to have two set of voices: the voices that really cares about you and could speak honestly into your life, and the voices that are dealing with their own pain of the loss of your spouse, that they're projecting on you and want your behavior to be what they should think it should be because of their sense of the loss. You got to distinguish those voices, okay? And don't own other people's space for where they need to be in this process. Your loss, the death of your spouse doesn't just impact you, it impacts all the people that this person's life influenced, and they're going to project that into your life. But you want the voices that are going to be sober, that are going to be there for you to help you when all the emotions come crashing and you get confused and hear all the voices. Do have people who could come alongside you and help you to maneuver through those times. And that's why I said you want to give yourself a year to 2 years of really, at least a year of really working through the major emotional events of your spouse's death, so that you can be able to have better emotional control of your response to being in a relationship without it being trying to be controlled by other people. Okay. All right. Any questions? You're a quiet bunch. I haven't had a question for tonight. Okay. We'll keep moving. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm concerned about keeping the equilibrium in terms of okay, you want to have a healthy balance in that you have friends, you have family who care for you, but they're
Yep.
not seeing this person like you see the person, even though you have a good bond with the person. So how do you acquire that balance? How do you keep like a sense of peace for you and for the relationships around you?
Right. Yeah. That's a good question, Michelle. And I would start with asking, especially the people who are concerned, because I would be asking them, what are your concerns? We have a tendency when we get in those conversations, we try to defend or explain, but we just need to step back and say, okay, so tell me what's your concern. What are you seeing? What is really that's bothering you? And listen, and especially the people who are struggling with the loss of your spouse. If you listen to them well, you will hear it's their own struggle that they're projecting on you. Okay, so finding the balance, Michelle. Remember, you can't change everybody's mind. You're not responsible for how they choose to perceive the situation or how they're perceiving the situation. Your responsibility is first check and make sure. Am I
I'm not sure if it's my internet, but I'm not hearing you well. It's cutting in and out.
in a healthy space doing this? And that's a balance, especially the unreasonable have wouldn't be good enough for you because things seem stable here. I'm sorry. So what I'm saying is, we think about the people you try to work out the balance with, but there's some people who you can't get the balance with them because it's so extreme and it's their pain and they put in so much demands and they're being so unreasonable with you, with the person you're dating. It's more about them and their pain. You have to hear that and leave those people to figure out where they're at or to work through where they're at, but don't let that be what shapes the relationship for you in terms of dating, because they are in an unhealthy space emotionally, and that becomes the measurement for your decisions to date, and you can't do that. You have to see that and say, I'm sorry, what you're talking about or what, it's not there, it's not happening. So you to find the balance, you have to figure out the people I'm working with, are they being reasonable or are they being unreasonable? Because they haven't yet dealt with their own anger and grief and loss of your spouse, and they're projecting that on you. Excuse me. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you heard me better.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Any other question?
I have another question because I just wanted to know, how do you prepare yourself to move on, or when would you know that it is time to, talk to somebody else, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's and for different people, it's different. Like I said, my two friends, one friend, excuse me, took us 7 years, and the other friend, it took her 4 years. Okay, so it'll depend on where you are. Some people, after the first year, people who jump into it before they really work through the process, the grieving process, like a few months, whatever. I've seen people done that, and that has not worked out too well. There are very, very few people who've been able to successfully manage that. Most people who get into it before a year and a half, 2 years, they really struggle because they haven't gotten in that place where they have walked through the grief. So how do I know I'm ready? Again, different people, different time, but I think some things will tell you. If are you ready to see the relationship with your spouse, whether it's been 5 years, you've been married, or 25 years you've been married? Can you see that as a part of your life that you have enjoyed and it's special and everything else? And now you're ready to open your heart again to, and to have another experience with someone else. Okay. Like I said, there's some initial things that are going to feel uncomfortable. They're going to be the guilt. They're going to be the betrayal. All of the things are going to come with doing that. You can't get rid of that without getting into the relationship, but they're going to subside over time. So sometimes the guilt and the betrayal and stuff of what you had, sense of what you had before, keeps you from thinking, I'm really not ready because I feel guilty. But you're not going to get past that unless you get in a relationship. So it's important to know that. And then as well, when you get into one of the things we talk about here, when you get into this dating relationship, are you initially talk about your spouse, but then again, it'd be about the both of you, the new person you're getting involved with, and not, I remember when we keep saying things like, I remember when we used to, if you're still there, then you haven't really you haven't gone through the grief process well enough to see that part of your life as something special, and you will honor, you'll always be meaningful to you. My two friends, they still celebrate the birthdays of their husbands with their new husband, and I'll go on Facebook and, my friend will put up, and they were both my good friends, these guys. So, we still celebrate them. We still talk about them when we get together with their new spouse, because it was a part of their life. And so if you could do those things, Michelle, it means that you're more ready to be open to be engaged. If you're lonely, if you're scared, if you are missing your spouse, you want to kind of check that for a while, because if you go into it because you're missing your spouse, it means you're not ready. It means you haven't worked through the process yet. Okay, Anne.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My apologies, I came on late, but is everyone hearing me clearly?
I am hearing you.
All right, great. So what I wanted to know is, how do you stop yourself from comparing the new person to the old person, or having expectations, that you're expecting this person to actually, I don't want to say fill the void, but respond and, to become almost like the other person. How do you stop that? And is that an indicator that you're not ready?
Yes. Okay, good question, Anne. And again, we did talk about that earlier in terms of if that's happening, it means you're not ready. You still have to work through your grieving process, you're not looking to replace your spouse. You want that relationship becomes something that you honor and is part of your life, always celebrate, and you will know when you're ready. I think some of the thing is, excuse me, is that a lot of times we don't talk enough about the spouse, who has died. We don't celebrate them enough. We're afraid to talk about them, or people come around us and they don't know how to. Okay, so one of the things I do well, is I work well with people who are grieving. I could come alongside them and I could journey with them. But one of the refreshing things they find when I'm with them, I show them how they can talk about their spouse in a way that it's not, and we'll entertain conversation. We're talking, and it will turn into laughter and remembering the funny things. Okay, so it means that you have to work with adjusting your life to this reality that this person I loved and I lived all these years with, whatever has died. I want to celebrate this person. They're special to me. They mean, but also being able to make this space in your life to say, okay, I will always cherish that. That'll always be a part of me. But now I am ready to move on. I'm ready to open my life. And you're going to have those initial times, and where you're going to be doing that. You're going to look at the comparison and stuff, but you're going to walk past it because you're opening your life for another person. And if you find that you can't walk past it, it means you still need to do some more grief work. You still need to spend a little more time on getting perspective on how you honor and appreciate that part of your life that you had with your spouse, and how you could always hold that in a special way and yet still open your heart for someone else. So if you find yourself unable to do that, it means there's more work to be done. So you have to come back and say, why am I struggling to let go of this? Why am I struggling to make room in my life now after how many years? And the grieving process, it means that you're stuck and you need some help in order to be able to move on from that space where you can date someone and not date them to fill the void, but date them because you want to engage in a healthy relationship again after having made peace and put that relationship with your spouse in perspective. All right, I hope that helped you, Anne, but that's just
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, if there are no other questions, I just want to kind of wrap this up and let you all ask me any other questions you may have. But another tool, like I said earlier, you need to be clear for you as to what, remember you have history now of having been married and having had a spouse, and what those years meant to you, and all of that, how the death occurred, that makes a difference as well. So you have all of that with you. So now you need to know, I'm going to another relationship here right now. What am I looking for? What's healthy for me? Okay. You're not going to look for somebody who you just want to feel sorry for you because you've lost a loved one. That is not going to be healthy. Okay. What do I want in a relationship? Okay. That at this stage in my life, and be able to know what that is, because when you know what you want, then you can set boundaries. Like I said earlier, if you have a spouse someone you're dating that doesn't want to introduce to the family and friends, that says something to you. It means you're treated differently and you're treated as though you're not accepted, so that you don't want to be part of that. You need to be able to step back and say, I am not going to allow myself to be treated like that. That's your boundary. Okay. It's their issue, but you will, however you are treated, is you allowing yourself to be treated that way. Okay. Because you're adult now. You're not a child who is being treated badly by an adult, but now you're an adult. So if people say to you, how could you let him talk to you like that? How is, then you need to stop and check, why am I allowing this to happen? Okay. So you need to know what you want. All right. And if you're dating someone who have lost their spouse, you need to also be keenly aware that they are not looking for you to fill a void also. So you don't want to be the consolation prize. You don't want to be the person that they're dating because they know, you lost a loved one and I lost a loved one, so we are a good match. But then in reality, all the conversation is about your spouse and all of that. The same thing. You got to be aware. You don't want to be the consolation prize, as you don't want to be the consolation prize. Someone else to be the consolation prize for you. Okay, so don't be the person that's trying to fill the gap, but don't take someone to fill the gap for you either. That is always unhealthy, because then you never give the person that you're dating the freedom to be themselves, because you already put expectation on who they should be. They should be the person that died, and that just can't be. Okay, so know that, and then apologize. At times you're going to say things, you're going to do things, you just apologize and you move on. Okay, so that way you can build it, because you would expect that you're going to inevitably say something, do something, be in a way that reflects the relationship with your spouse that has died. You're going to do it because you're human. The difference is the person you're dating understands that, you understand that, and you don't feel bad and guilty and angry with yourself. You recognize that, and you be able to, you may even call the person the name of your spouse in the initial stages, and that's okay, because you've lived with this person for so many years. You're now getting to know this person. You're dealing with that. So these are things going to happen. It doesn't mean you're not in a place or you're not ready. It means that this is being human. Now, if it doesn't change, if it keeps and you keep getting sad and you keep crying and then you're not ready. You're not ready. Okay. But you're going to do and say things that are going to reflect the past relationship, and that's okay because you're human, and those emotional bonds, those emotional ties, they mean a lot. But as you learn to see them for where they are and not let them define the current relationship, says that you're ready. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Just one more for me.
Yeah.
It's along the same line actually, but it's more personal. I mean the chat is real talk, right? So I hope I wouldn't be embarrassing anyone or anything like that. But I am thinking now, okay.
That we have to have, because we now we got married, and you know, how your spouse used to be with you sexually, this person is different, and a whole lot of things playing out here. So this is where we need to have the adult conversation, you know. Okay. We need to be able, and if not, then we have to get some help, because it means this is a part of the marriage that's not working right now. We need to figure out what is it, you know, on the God Anatomy for Marriage platform. You know, we deal with a lot of that kind of stuff. We talk very openly about sex, and you know, we have a sex therapist in here, and we engage in some healthy conversation. If it's not working, then we need to get the help we need, because if we don't, then the relationship is going to deteriorate. Okay, so when we get to that place where we saved ourselves, we got married, now we start with the sexual part of the relationship and realize we're having some struggles here. Could be a number of things. Okay, whether it's the widow that's struggling because she's having a whole lot of emotional issues to get past having sex with someone else after being with her spouse for all these years, and you know, the person she's married giving her the room to work through that, or she may have to even, you know, talk to a counselor about it. Or maybe the person she's married, their whole approach to sex is different, and it's not what it used to be like with her spouse. So she's having all this difficulty now because she's having to, you know, to be so different about this that is difficult for her. But we have to have the conversation, and if between the two of you can't work it out, then in the interest of the relationship, you need to seek some help and say, this is everything else seems to be working, but this part is struggling. And then we'll discover whether it is the one person struggling with the emotions from the previous marriage or if it's the other person who is not being, who's so different that they're not being caring about the other person. So it could be any number of things. But all I'm saying is, and if it comes up as an issue, then if the two persons can't address it enough to fix it, don't say that's the way it is. Reach out and get some help, because it's part of the relationship, and don't be embarrassed about it. You have to reach out to it, because and you is a point that's true for so many couples who get, you know, so many widows who get remarried, or widower who get remarried, that inevitably the problem arises and they don't know what to do, because now we're here and we're embarrassed or whatever. But seek help. If you two can't work it out, I say seek help.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Yep. All right. Just know this. One of the things I don't date someone to be a therapist. Okay. What I mean by that is, don't date someone because you just need someone every time you meet. You're just talking about your difficulties and what's going on in life and all the struggles you're going through. And all. If you find that's all this conversation is about, you need a therapist. You don't need someone to be dating. Okay, dating is not about spilling all of your challenges and your troubles and your difficulties after having lost your spouse. You need a therapist. Dating is you building a new relationship. And so you need to be clear about that you're not making your spouse a therapist, okay? Find the people who could listen to you. And if you don't have people around you to support you, get a therapist. But don't date to have someone just to, every time you meet with them, you just telling them, oh, today was this, that, that, you know, I'm tired of this, the children's of this, the in-laws of that, the this, the that. That's not going to go well either. Okay. So don't make your date the center of your universe. So now your spouse have died, you start to date again, and suddenly this person is everything. Okay. You're trying so hard to forget about your spouse, you want to make this person everything. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, because what happens when you do that is then you don't see the red flags, you don't hear anybody talking to you, you don't do everything else. Now you're dating, you know, that, you know, and everything is about this person, la, la, la. You are really just using this person to bury some serious emotional issues. Okay. If you're dating someone and they're everything to you, okay, it means that you have some real issues here. That that you are using this person to mask the emotional challenges. See, they're everything. Every time they all talk about it, them all the time, and you always, you know, you're bubbly and you're happy and all of that, and you know, no one can say anything about them. You know, you just we're all humans. We're not perfect, and we all have our own brokenness. So just be aware that if you're making someone everything about your life after having lost your spouse and re-engaging again after however long, and that's all it is about, then there's a problem here. Okay, so don't make your spouse the center of the universe. You have to find the places as in a healthy relationship. And I want to say this: it's about you. You have to take care of you. You have to decide what's acceptable and what's not. Don't say, well, this person is supposed to know that. Your spouse should have known some things because of years of being together. And don't come in a relationship and think this other person should just know it. You have to get to know you. But what I want to say here, which a lot of people don't always get, but after a while they will get it. Fundamentally, how people treat you is how you allow them to treat you. Okay. You have to take responsibility of setting the boundaries and saying what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. You can talk to me, but don't raise your voice at me. If you start raising your voice at me, I'm not going to say, I told you don't raise your voice at me when you're talking to me. I'm just going to leave. And you will know I am leaving because I told you, you can talk to me, but don't raise your voice at me. So I'm saying fundamentally, as you re-engage in this dating thing, you are responsible for how you allow people to treat you. Okay. One final thing I want to say, to give you some chance to ask me a question. When we experience the death of a spouse, and depends on how long you've been married, you know, it depends on where you are economically. You might have some inheritance, you might have a lot of money, you might be, you know, because of all that have happened. Be aware of someone who wants to date you and is interested in you, but is really not. Okay. They might just be interested in you because of all that you have. Especially if someone who has no commitment, they don't have a house, they don't have a mortgage, they don't have children, they don't have anything. They just, you know, they're just kind of like, they're the nicest person they know, and they're treating you so well, and they care about you and all of that kind of stuff. But the reality is, what they see in you is what you have, not who you are. Okay. So nothing about what you have, and you know, so even when you're doing your profile and stuff, don't what you have and all that kind of stuff it's not the point. This is about you. So there are going to be people who are going to come after you because they see what you have, and you got to be aware enough. And here's where you have your friends, you listen to people, you know, when they, you know, ask you certain things. Don't just get on the defensive, you know, you're just jealous of me, you don't like him because, you know, he's young or whatever. Don't go there. Take some time to listen, because sometimes what you can't see because of where you are emotionally, others could see, and they could see what's happening. Okay, so listen to people. I always welcome criticism, because I think criticism make me better. But I know I get two types of criticism. Okay, They're the people that criticized me because they want to destroy me, and people that criticize me because they want me to be better. What I do is, when I get criticism, I don't just blow it off. I will ask the people who care about me, is that true about me? Did you notice that? Did you see that? And if they say, no, obviously, Errol, that's been a little concerning, then I take it, okay? Because we all have blind spots. There are things about ourselves we can't see. Other people see it better than we can, and we have to have people in our lives who can tell us that, and we can take it in and make the changes. But just be aware of those who are going to come after you because of what you have and not who you are. Okay. Any other questions?
Reverend, are you hearing me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh my goodness. Well, I tell you, oh my, I asked this question because I have interacted with widows and also widowers, but mainly widows, and this whole aspect of remarriage. And
Right.
because the timing of courtship or dating was not well dealt with, what happens, what I have found happening is that within the space of a few years, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And like that point you just raised, where it is a case where they found out, wow, she inherited some stuff and I'm going to pursue her and sweep off her feet, and that's it after a while. When that is finished, marriage is finished. I don't know how you can shed some light there.
Yeah. So first thing I'll say here, it's going to sound really strange to you. I'm going to say it to you because especially you've been married a lot of years, and now you're divorced. I mean, you're widowed. Here's the thing I want you to do. You're getting a dating relationship and you're planning to get married. Get some premarital counseling. Okay. Get some don't take it because I've been married for so many years and I know what this is about. I know where I'm going. You just need an objective voice, okay, to really help you hear and see some things. And when I do premarital counseling, with couples who have never been in a committed relationship before, it's usually a minimum of 6 sessions. And if things comes up, I do an assessment. And if thing comes up, then it will be more than 6 sessions. But in the case where you've been married before, it wouldn't necessarily be that many sessions. But you need to have at least 2 or 3 sessions of just really getting some premarital counseling as you're going into this thing. If you get married and it's not working out, get the help. Because there are some unresolved issues, and maybe it's not working out now because there are unresolved grief issues that haven't been worked on, or maybe because the person came in with the expectation of what they thought you had, and now that they have access to it, they realize not as much as you had, and so they're treating you badly. We get all those things in the open, but get some help. Okay, seek some help. But again, I'm saying, how you're treated will be how you allow yourself to be treated. If you find someone is mistreating you, you don't just take it and hope it'll change. You have to say, this has got to stop. We got to get some help. I'm not going to allow you to treat me like that, and be able to do the things that you need to do in order to take care of yourself. But if it comes to where now that it's heading that way for divorce, get some help, because obviously there are some issues. And regular people who never had a spouse died or anything gets divorced because they have issues to work out as well. So so work it out. So again, especially, I said earlier, if you are widowed and you marry somebody, you get involved with somebody who's been divorced, this is 2 totally different package you're bringing together here. Okay, you're coming from a marriage that was happy and fulfilling, and death ended that marriage, and you're coming with someone who has had to leave a marriage, whether it was whatever they did or whatever the spouse did. A divorce always leaves anger and resentment and all of the kind of thing. No matter if it was not your fault, there was still that. So you have to work with that dynamic, of what's happening here. That's why the premarital counsel is so important. And it's so important for you to understand the person you're dating is coming from, and what are their issues and what their life journey, and whether you guys could get to build a life together. So Sherlyn, there are a number of things, but like I said, if it gets to that now, then you need help. But please get some premarital counseling. Don't think because you've had 25 years of marriage, you just want to go along with someone else and you know what this is. For your sake, for the other person's sake, for the marriage sake. Yeah, get some premarital counseling.
Thank you so much, Reverend. I also thought about our leaders in churches. What you call them, elite ladies. Their husbands, and they are there now, and how it is for them to make that adjustment from, I'm talking about from a church's perspective, in now receiving them and to be seeing them going into a relationship. Any advice in that way, any suggestions in that way? I hope I'm asking the question and you understand me.
So a piece of it broke up there. Tell me what you mean. You're talking about the elite ladies. I didn't hear that.
So we have some very strong widows who have become widow. They were leading alongside with their husbands in ministry, and they have become widow. And time has gone on, and they are now in that place of dating and wanting to make that whole adjustment within their local assembly as well, in how the congregation accepts them. What type of advice you have there?
Okay. Oh yeah. So again, remember what I said earlier, and especially if this ministry with the husband, and the husband was a leader and he was well known and he was well loved and everything else, a lot of people are going to be reacting out of their own grief towards you. Okay, you just have to know that not everything everybody says is actually about you. It's about where they're at. So here's the thing. You're in a unique position because as leaders, we are in a unique position. So how we do it is huge. We want to leave no sense of people having any kind of to insinuate anything or to think anything in a way that is unbecoming of what we want to be as leaders. So we are careful. Okay. You're ready to date, you let's say you've been a pastor's wife for that thing, or you and your pastor were, your husband were pastors together, and you're young and he's died and you're ready to move on, and and all of that. You just have to be aware that, so you can't say, well, I'm dating someone, and they come over the house and they're there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Nothing is happening, but it's just not appropriate. That's not appropriate for anybody in terms of how you look at it. But I'm saying in terms of the leader, it's how they look at you. So some things you're going to be very careful about. Meeting open, meet publicly, whatever. You're going to have your private time meeting. I'm not saying you're not going to meet alone together. All I'm saying is don't leave people to be talking about how you're behaving that will bring disrepute on your leadership. Okay? Now, there are those extreme old-fashioned people, and we have those, but all right, you just gotta be careful. All right. But you're ready to move on. You're going to have a lot of voices saying, no, you can't do that. And it's not about you. It's about their love for their pastor and what he meant to them. And they can't even imagine seeing you with somebody else. But you're ready. So you have to recognize, I can do this. I'm ready for this. And let them, when you're having those conversations with people who are opposing that, don't get in a fight. Say, I hear you. I understand you. What is your concern? Whatever. But they're not making a decision for you. And the decision is based on what where you're at, and you're ready to move on. And you meet someone and you're interested in them, and they might be a leader themselves, or be someone who's not a leader at all. That's fine. All I'm saying is how you conduct that relationship has a higher impact than an ordinary person in the congregation. I'm not saying different things are expected. I'm saying how you conduct it have a higher impact, okay, than just a regular person in the congregation who doesn't have that leadership influence within the context. But you're going to get a lot of pushback from people who so love the one who died that they wouldn't make room for you to see someone else. And you are the one who have to say, I appreciate that. I know how much you loved him. he was a great man, but you got to move on. So that's for that, and you have to have some people who will support you, because it depends on where you are, you're going to get some real pushback and maybe feel real bad. You've got to have some people who have to come alongside you and just help you to make that process, to make that step in that process. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Reverend.
Yeah, because one of my friends I was talking about here, her husband, he was the music minister for the church. This church was about 1,000 people. He was the music minister, so everybody knew who Mike was. Mike was my good friend, and but that's who he was, But when she was ready to move on, after Mike died and all of that, how she did that, didn't bring any question about, yes, we all have to, and she knew how I knew Mike. I love Mike as my friend, and she and I talked about it, and she was interested in my response because she valued my input, and all that. And we talked about it, and it was all good, but it just needs to be done in a way that doesn't bring disrepute on you as a leader. All right, any other question?
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you for your time and your godly advice. Good evening. This question on goal settings. You have entered your second marriage. Could you give me some practical goals that you can advise this couple that they can possibly look at setting in the short, medium, and long term, please? Practical, please.
Yeah, well, and that would depends on two people, on the age where they are. Do they want to have kids? Maybe young enough. Maybe the person already married 3 or 4 years, and in the late 20s or the 30s. So it depends a lot on that. So are we having kids? Are we planning when we're going to retire? Are we planning your family live here, my family live over there? We can't be there all the time. So are we going, are we going to go to Grenada for Christmas next year because that's where you're from? Are we going to stay here in Trinidad this year? So all of those practical things, long-term, short-term, intermediate, those things will really depend on the age of the couple, on where they're from, what are their goals, what they're working on. So to give you steps would not be helpful because it'll change for every couple. Depends on where they're at. But it is good for them to sit down and say, okay, so what do we do? What do we want to have together? Because we're making a new life here, and what does it look like? And so how we set our goals. What we're going to do. We're gonna, we're older. We have grandkids. When your grandkids come over, when my grandkids come over, all of those things. So really, all those things depend on the couple and the age and where things are for them.
Thank you.
I said thank you. Thank you again.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Any questions?
This has really been a quiet real talk session, but please, we still have our Reverend here for a few more minutes. And if you have any burning questions or you want to inbox him or get some details from him, I know, Reverend, you will share your contact information. But we are really, really glad that you were able to be on this evening. And if you do have a question, you may not have been widowed, you're single, but looking at dating, because this thing is across the board, and you want to do it God's way, and you have a question, please, we don't want you to leave the platform here this evening with that question unanswered. And there was a song that I got at the beginning just before I came out into the office, and that song was God Will Take Care of You. And I don't know who it's for, but I just want you to be encouraged to know that if that's your decision going forward in 2023, God will take care of you. God will guide you. He will send the help that you need as you step out in faith. We really, really appreciate you being on this evening and just connecting with us. And we want you to know you have a team behind you supporting if you do intend to date again. Reverend, how that came across?
Yeah, that's quite good in knowing that. And I would just say this to you. It's important for you to do your grief work. You got to do that. And it might be, some of you probably years down the road and you still haven't completed that process yet. Do the grief work. And the grief work, you have to walk through the blame, the anger, the whole thing about why this happened to me, and come to some acceptance and celebrate that relationship, that those years in your marriage. Celebrate them. So then once you could do that and you recognize that, then you open yourself for another relationship. But like I said earlier, it's not to get rid of or not to forget or to push aside the fact that you had these many years with this other person. It's a matter of working through that and making the space. That's important. So please do that. Secondly, I keep saying this, be aware of people who are dealing with their own issues and they're trying to project that on you. You can't get married now. What's wrong with you? Especially like the leadership team talk about, if it was a pastor or whatever, everybody have their own pain to deal with, having lost someone as prominent as that. And you as the spouse, the widow, gets that dumped on you as though you are responsible for everybody else's pain. You need to be aware of that, okay? Number 3, have people in your life who could speak into your life honestly, that you would listen to. At least 2 people. You need those people in your life, okay? I didn't mention this, but it's implied in why I said to wait a year or year and a half, at least 2 years. You don't want to make any decision based on emotions. Emotions come and go, okay? So don't make any decision based on emotion, no matter how much your heart flutters and you feel you need this person. Because let's be honest, you had to have a good marriage, and you miss the kissing and the hugging and all of the tenderness you felt, and that, and you could, that longing, that emotional longing could drive you into wanting to date, because that's what's driving it, okay? So don't make any decision based on emotions. You need to walk through that and realize, I am in this because I want to spend time with this person. I enjoy talking to them. I want to get to know them. I want to get to know me. And, but let the emotions come after, not what decide what you do, okay? All right. Any other question from anyone else? Okay. All right, so let me just put this up here. You can have a look at this. There's my contact information. You need to give me, make me co-host, Sherlyn, so I can share my screen. I want to put my contact up there rather than
No, I'll do that.
say it.
My feature does not allow me. I make you co-host, but you'll have to put me back after, okay? So I'll do that now.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. All right, thank you. Okay. All right. Can you see that screen?
Yes, we're seeing it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's my contact details if anybody, all right. Well, if there are no other questions, comments, or observation, Sherlyn, I think I am finished talking.
Thank you, Reverend. So just you can give me back host status, and thank you so
Yes.
very much. We really appreciated your time.
Thank you.
I trust that those of you who were on this evening were blessed in one way or the other. We did get Michelle. Michelle is sending a wave. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're really, really glad that you were able to be on this evening. Reverend Carrim, we appreciate you. We thank God for you, and we pray God's continued grace and blessings be upon your life and that which you continue to do within the body of Christ. May He continue to cause your borders to be expanded in the name of Jesus. Grace and peace to you. Hallelujah.
Right.
I'm saying that
All right.
the anointing is just